by Riverside.
All right. Well, a happy Friday to everyone, and welcome to another episode of the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin, and today is Friday, December 19th of 2025. I hope everyone out there is having themselves a wonderful Friday. Let's get this weekend off to a fast start, and I got some great content to provide for you guys here. Now, obviously, you're seeing some new things, and let me just kind of break that down before we do anything else here on our program. I always, from the very beginning of doing a podcast, I always want to put out nothing but great content for people. And that goes for audio and video. So over the years, I've invested into an audio mixer. I got my own microphone. I got my own headset. I'm looking to grow and advance from that. So I've always taken that with the passion. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. The return on investment over the years has not been so promising. So I've had to make some adjustments, cut down some costs that allows me to still put up an episode. But what I didn't take away from that was the quality of the episodes. And I get disappointed because I want to give you the best. I'm trying to attract your attention for the next 30 minutes to an hour. And I want you to be able to be engaged. I want you to be able to have cool and fun stuff on the screen. And I want you to be able to enjoy yourself. So, I've tried some different things, and I started off with using StreamYard Studios, which I will always praise because the setup and the format of recording or going live was a few clicks. You had everything in a pre-setting recording. You didn't have to do any much in post-editing, and you're allowed to download an audio and a video content, and that allowed you to, it kind of made things a lot easier. It got pretty pricey. And so I then, took a hiatus, said I'm not going to pay for the subscription. It's gotten a little too much out of my price range. I'm not seeing anything in return. Unfortunately, it has to also intrigue to me. I was looking around to begin with, and I ran into Zoom earlier this year. That's what got me back up and running on podcasting. That's great and all. But I think for the work that I want to put out here for you guys, and with all due respect, Zoom just lacked that extra studio type platform that we have. So I've been getting a lot of advertisements on social media. So I want to thank Facebook, YouTube, ads and whatnot that is on social media. I have done a little bit of research. I have played around. As a matter of fact, this is a trial run. I want to thank Riverside for allowing a trial run before actually signing up and getting anything started. But we are actually coming to you from the Riverside FM studio website. And what I'm already just picking up little things that are beneficial from this. As you can see, I have on my top corner up here, you can see the TNC Sports Talk logo. I have a holiday background for me. I know the background for me right now is not ideal, but I also have a studio format down below, so I could pop up and click up on little text bars, overlays, have guests in the studio that I could bring up, share my screen. Everything is at the expense of a few clicks. And so I took 30 minutes before beginning this recording. I set up my topic bars that I plan to have, and I love to give you guys some sort of displays on the screen. And a lot of that stuff done in recent videos that you guys have seen were done thanks to Canva. I would have to go back in after a recording, click on Canva, and kind of it's a plug in and play. And for me, there's an element of sloppiness to it. There's an element of inefficiency. There is an element of just not giving you that product that you guys deserve. So, I'm taking full advantage of what Riverside FM has to offer. There's a lot more in post-production that makes it a lot easier for us as podcasts or content creators to pull data from each episode to help create shorts and to create other content other than having to click record and come up with the script. So far I'm really enjoying what I'm seeing. Like I said, there's nothing bad about Zoom. There's nothing bad. I still have Canva under subscription. There's nothing bad about StreamYard Studios. I love all of them. But when you're trying to find something on a short base product that is not going to charge you an arm and a leg to produce content, but gives you the quality that not only the audience deserves, but I want to give out, I've currently found that Riverside does the best work. So this is what we are trying out right now. And so I'm excited for this clip. I can't wait to see what else we have to use through this. With that being said, I want you guys, wherever you guys are listening to us, please be patient with me as I try to explore. I'm trying to see what they have to work with. And so I have things set up and for today's conversation, and I already love these new tools. For example, we have some links tied along to some pop-up text that you guys could click on. It will take you directly to the source, which I love. The one thing I didn't do, which I will talk about, is Enlighten Studios' upcoming theater production called Grassroots. And Grassroots is Enlighten Studios' new production that's kicking off 2026. It is premiering at the Artsville Theater in Cincinnati, Ohio from February 20th through March 1st. And tickets are still available by heading on over to tickettailor.com, where you can purchase your tickets. It's a great holiday present for if you're looking for last minute shopping. I know coming up this holiday season next week, they have some deals going on. So I will have the description still promoted in the link below. Coming up, hopefully on the next episode, on Monday, I should have a link attached to the overlay or the text that I will provide on the screen for you guys. But I encourage you guys, listen, they've been growing. This is a story about a black family in the 90s moving into a white neighborhood. You deal with a lot of suppressive issues and a lot of truths come out in this story that, look, every time that Terry Chappell comes out here and he puts on a theater production, Dinner with a Few Sides of Drama was a knockoff. It always seems to elevate, and Enlighten Studios is only growing bigger and bigger and bigger. I can't talk any more highly about them. So please, if you guys have nothing to do this early spring, late winter, get those tickets today, tickettailor.com, and I want to see you out there. I'll be out there myself. So, all right. Well, a couple of things came apart across my table last night when it came down to dealing with trying to kind of come up with some conversation news. So I'm going to kind of go through and kind of give you a little run through the sports and the updates around the world. We're focusing on tonight's SmackDown. We'll talk a little bit about the Rams game last night. We have a couple of trades and transactions that's taken place across Major League Baseball. We got the first round of college football playoffs about to begin this weekend. As a matter of fact, I think one game is tonight. I will share with you that and my predictions. And then there is a couple of Cincinnati things that kind of cross the table here. But all right. Well, look, SmackDown here is tonight. SmackDown is a recording from Monday, and SmackDown is coming off of Saturday Night Main Event. So particularly, there's interest in the Drew McIntyre and Cody Rhodes feud, as we know in a social media angle last weekend that Nick Aldis and police attended Drew McIntyre's house to kind of resolve this. Well, Drew believes this is an unsafe work environment, and Drew wants conditions and wants to do things on his own terms. Basically, Drew wants a chance at the WWE Championship that he won back at WrestleMania over a year ago. The title should belong to him, but Damian Priest was the one who cashed in and stole the title from Drew after he won. And ever since then, Drew has kind of had this bitter side of him towards the WWE, towards the talent, where he feels like he's being mistreated, that he's not being recognized, he's for the talent that he's worth, and he has this spotlight that should be given to him, and every time he gets an opportunity, something happens, someone gets in the way, and it puts him 10 steps backwards. So Nick tried to reason with him, and Drew basically claimed, look, I want a championship match. I want to name the stipulation to the championship match. And I basically want to also have some sort of restraining order against Cody Rhodes where Cody is not allowed to lay hands on him until this match. Because Drew is calling WWE a unsafe work environment. Sorry, allergies this morning. So, with that being said, Nick Aldis was ready to give Drew what he wants when all of a sudden we saw Cody Rhodes show up to Drew McIntyre's house. They're in this cul-de-sac neighborhood, and now you see Drew and Cody kind of battle out in the streets as you see people attempt to separate these two men. And this is, look, and I like it. What I like most about this is that they are taking the element of professional wrestling beyond the square ring, beyond the arenas. They are going into houses, neighborhoods, and they are elevating and taking these stories further than where they should be at. And that's what makes these rivals interesting. It's what makes these rivals more interesting and to watch and to follow. It gives me a reason to tune into SmackDown tonight to see what else is being done in this feud. And yes, it's already been taped. And yes, there's been some spoils out there that I am not trying to follow or pay attention to. So with that being said, in this time of year, we're at the end of the year, shows are being taped for the holidays. There's really not an expectation of a lot of excitement in these final weeks as holidays, come about. Usually this time of year, they celebrate and honor match of the year awards or best wrestlers, best female, this and that, right? And what we see here is something that keeps us going into this next year because it's going to be officially the road to the Royal Rumble and then the road to WrestleMania. And right now, I mean, WWE has pushed. We just revealed that Austin Theory was the mystery man on Raw. You have Braun Breaker up there, Logan Paul, LA Knight, CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, Drew McIntyre, possibly Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, if depending on the status of Seth Rollins, Dominic Mysterio is growing. Gunther just got booed out of the arena, which was probably the best segment from Gunther this entire year. His resume just continues to thrive. And this Drew and Cody is leading up to having a good feud beyond heading into this new year. SmackDown also has advertised names like Tiffany Stratton, Jacob Fatu, Randy Orton, and more. So there's not a lot of leeway, not leeway, but spoilers to what to expect tonight, which I like. But we are expecting to see ourselves a prominent show heading into Christmas, the final holiday week, even though it was a taping. Now, Raw and SmackDown is going to be taped tonight for next week, as they have, Raw and SmackDown next week. They intend to start resuming live action wrestling coming up on December 29th, which is next, not this coming up Monday, but next Monday. So, if you're one of those that are checked out this time of year, I understand that. For me and my family has this event at our local church. They are doing the Christmas Eve service, which is kind of like a manger production. I guess last year, because this is our first year attending, they have done a good, they had a really big crowd for their Christmas Eve production. So what they've done is they've spreaded it out over the entire week, starting tonight up until Christmas Eve next Wednesday. And it's free, but you get a select time slot. So in hopes to give everyone an opportunity to attend if they want to and not to have a full crowd. And they are limited on capacity. So if they do reserve enough seats, then they would have to close down that one, and give it another night. So I mean, we're going to the first showing. I'm excited. I'm thrilled to see what the concept is. It's a big night, kind of kicks off our festive weekend and our holiday weekend and so much more. So I'll probably miss SmackDown, probably have to catch it later tonight. I'm also missing, I still haven't got a chance to complete the sit down interview that Cody Rhodes had with John Cena for the first time since his retirement last Saturday. So I got to still finish listening to that. I'm hearing a lot of great things. One thing I'm taking away from this interview is that John Cena is very specific with what he says, how he says it, and what he decides to reveal. And I'm just like, are we really going to get much information out of him? But, for 2 men at 9 o'clock in the morning sharing some vodka drinks, it's I guess, I guess anything can happen, right? In the wrestling world, tonight is a big promotion as we see Jake Paul finally step into the ring with Anthony Joshua. That match will be available on Netflix tonight at 8 p.m. For their battle. I guess, if we're professional wrestlers here, I guess we want to support within the house, and with Logan Paul being in the WWE, Jake Paul has the equal opportunity of winning this match. Others are going to say, well, Jake Paul is going to get put into his place, and this may ruin, his career. Look, I think we said plenty about Logan Paul and how he didn't belong, and he's proved us wrong based off of his performance in that squared circle. So I don't want to count out Jake Paul yet. Maybe he's bitten off more he can chew, but this has been a build-up for quite some time, and the payoff is expected to happen later on tonight on Netflix. All right, we're moving right along, man. Thursday Night Football yesterday, I gotta say, was a really good showdown. Now, I didn't watch it, but from the highlights that I've seen, there was a lot at stake here on Thursday Night Football. It was a battle of the NFC West Division. The Rams had the lead. Both teams came in with an 11-3 record, and the winner is going to kind of take over the division at the moment and have that upper advantage. They would also hold that number one seed in the NFC. Rams currently had that position, but after last night's battle in overtime and in a 2-point conversion that Sam Darnold delivered a game-winning pass to Eric Saubert to beat the Rams 38-37 in overtime. Seattle, and this is an impressive comeback. You talk about a team who was kind of ruled out. Everyone questioned Sam Darnold and this, how he was going to be able to carry this team. They were down 30-14 heading into the fourth quarter. And statistically, the Seahawks were 0 for 172. They have not won a single game in their 50 years when they were down by 15 or more in the fourth quarter. And man, I got to tell you, Matthew Stafford was on fire. Matthew Stafford for the Rams threw 457 yards. He threw for 3 touchdowns. Nakua had 12 of those catches for 225 yards and 2 passing touchdowns. Sam Darnold, you would have thought the numbers would have told you something else. 270 yards, 2 touchdowns. Najiba with 8 receptions and 96 yards with 1 touchdown. I mean, the tale of the tape down in the dotted lines told you a completely different story. But Seattle Seahawks prevailed. They were in the hometown. They now take over the NFC West, and they have a chance to clinch the division and have that number one seed. It's going to be important to have that number one seed in both NFC and AFC conferences. The Seahawks sit with a 12-3 record, while the Rams move to 11-4. The 49ers, who take on the Colts, or do they take on the Colts? I think, yeah, take on the Colts this Sunday, heading into this game. And so, this NFC West, I've talked about it time and time again this season. It is something to pay attention to, and something that we want, that is going to probably be the most attracted heading into the final games of the season. Other games that we're highlighting here, we know the impact game of the Bears and Packers this Saturday. The Eagles could clinch and knock out the Cowboys with a win this Saturday also. So there are a lot of impactful games heading into week 16. So a lot of football ahead of us this holiday season. Well, the Padres are making themselves a little bit of splash this holiday season. not so much during the winter meetings, but they just acquired and signed KBO's Sun-Mun Song, an infielder from the Korean baseball organization. They signed him to a 3-year, $13 million deal with the organization. It was posted. A link will be attached. If you click on this link that's on the screen right now, it will take you to the website where this article was found. Song has played for 9 seasons and averages about 283 at batting average. Well, in 2025, he batted 315. He had 26 home runs, 25 stolen bases in 144 games. Something that we're probably definitely looking for in a baseball player for the Padres perspective. And man, listen, I think, we're getting more and more international players coming along, more in that Japanese, Korean type leagues. If you see what Shohei Ohtani has done and the way he has splashed in this market, you just kind of realize that, hey, if we get a chance to land a player like anybody from the KBO or the Japan baseball organization, then, the sky's the limit, and baseball is a completely different atmosphere, international compared to the U.S. So we'll see how he plays out in San Diego. Also, the Padres has elected to re-sign right-handed pitcher Michael King to a 3-year, $75 million deal with an opt-out option for each of his first 2 years. Pending a physical this morning. I'm assuming he's past that. Let me break down that contract here in details. He's going to receive a $12 million signing bonus, $5 million in 2026, and then this is when it gets crazy. If he doesn't opt out in the first year, he is planned to receive $28 million in 27 with a $5 million opt-out buyout, and a $30 million in 2028 with no buyout. That's basically the breakdown of $22 million for the first year, $45 million for the second year, and $75 million for the third year. Michael King is going to add to the Padres rotation along with Nick Pivetta, Joe Musgrove, who is expected to return, Randy Vasquez, and JP Spears. We know the story behind Yu Darvish undergoing surgery earlier this October. He's going to be out this coming up season. The Padres are eating a big chunk of his that payroll unless he decides to retire. And being able to sign Michael King as a free agent was questionable, but the Padres were able to re-sign and have that security blanket a little bit, helping that rotation out. And they have some money to spend. So I look at this and I'm just like, man, where's the Reds in all of this? Also around Major League Baseball, the Kansas City Royals and the Philadelphia Phillies have made an acquisition trade, as the Phillies will be sending over Matt Strahm, 34 years old, to the Royals in exchange for a 29-year-old Jonathan Bolin. Bolin last season had a 4.86 ERA, while Strahm, as a solid relief pitcher, has a 2.74 ERA with a 10 strikeout per walk per inning ratio with 6 saves. This season, he's expected to get paid $4.5 million. So that deal is being finalized and has already been done. We'll see. The Royals are looking to advance. You think that with the Phillies being able to re-sign Kyle Schwarber, trying to pick up JT Realmuto, maybe they got to find other ways to cut cost in other categories. Matt Strahm, I've always thought highly of Matt Strahm and thought that he's a good pitcher. It seems like to me, any pitcher that goes to the Padres organization that comes out on the other side is a better pitcher than they were coming into all this. All right, before we advance to our next segment, and that is talking about the Cincinnati Bengals, I want to go ahead and invite you guys to reach out to me on my social media platforms. I want to hear your voice. I want to hear what you guys have to say. So leave comments in the descriptions. I want to be able to read them, share them on our show. If you guys want to be an upcoming guest, email me, either reach out to me on our YouTube channel or email me on my Facebook page, trying to become more visual and more active on social media. And I'm trying. I may fail a few places, but I am trying. So don't be afraid to reach out to me. I want to be able to get you on, talk to you guys. The guy I want to get on here. Here's the guy I want to get on. This is important. So last night, somebody posted, and this took all the social media in Cincinnati. This all took Fox 19 and all the news stations, all the radio stations. I've heard this all morning long. This is a big deal. A digital billboard on the I-75 by, you can look this up on YouTube, follow them, start listening to them. Cincy Unfiltered. It's a podcast about Bengals football. Well, they put a digital sign on the I-75 South that says, Zach, fire Duke, save Joe Burrow. Let me repeat that. Fire Zach, fire Duke, save Joe Burrow. That's what it says. And I guess I'm more astonished, but I'm happy. I want to find them. I don't want to go to them in public. I want to shake their hand and say thank you, because I'm not crazy when I talk about this. It is something that we've been talking about for the past several weeks. There is a clear image based off of the results that we have seen so far this season where the problems lies with the Cincinnati Bengals. It does not have to do with anything defensively. It does not have to do anything with our offensive line. The primary focus is what lack of performance we get from our head coach, Zach Taylor, and our general manager, Duke Tobin. Let me reiterate that for you. Joe Burrow goes down in week 2. We already know that we were going to have struggles with our defense and we're going to have struggles with the offensive line. That was established before even, summer camp took place. We got Trey Hendrickson back, then he got hurt. That's a whole nother deal. But Joe Burrow goes down week 2. Zach Taylor is now in charge of this team. No one else can step up, and you can't hide behind anyone else. Jake Browning wasn't having success. Your defense still sucked. And we obviously weren't playing good. We had a couple of very big, embarrassing losses in the upcoming weeks following Joe Burrow's injury. It became apparent who was running this ball team. That was Joe Burrow. It was certainly clear that Zach Taylor is either incompetent at running this team or he has a whole bunch of coaches underneath him that I don't know what you're seeing in them, but they can't run this team because they're not teaching these defensive players how to tackle. They're not teaching these offensive guys how to block. And so now Duke Tobin has the opportunity heading into the trade deadline, which you had 6 weeks to do, to add on to this roster, to improve it, to give the Bengals any fighting chance to saving a season that Joe Burrow was missing at least 3 months of. And the only transactions that I even recognize, one, we picked up Joe Flacco, which I will give Tobin a bit of a credit. I don't know if any other quarterback was going to be capable of coming in and taking over the position of leading this team the way Joe Flacco did. I don't think Russell Wilson. I don't think Jameis Winston. Nobody. No Phillip Rivers. No, even Tom. I don't even think Tom Brady would be capable of doing it. Not saying he can't. I'm just saying he's not. I don't think he's capable. Not without a solid head coach. So Joe Flacco did the best we got. We also saw the departure of Logan Wilson, but we got nothing in return, just like we didn't pay for anything for Joe Flacco. So what did Duke Tobin honestly do for this organization? Nothing at all. Okay. I didn't see it. And, we saw clearly Zach Taylor's position as what he can do as a head coach. And to be honest, without Joe Burrow, it's nothing. On top of that, you had a crappy defense and a sloppy-ish offensive line. Now, over the years, we could argue and say that Duke Tobin has tried to put together an offensive line and they just have not failed here in Cincinnati. That's credited. I can explain that and I can understand that. But at the end of the day, we're sitting here. We're eliminated from the playoffs when I don't think we should be. And that has to do a lot because of how this team is being ran. And the first thing you have to look for is Zach Taylor and Duke Tobin. I feel throughout this entire season, I've been very fair in giving them time and being patient. And I feel like I've been a lot more patient than others in this situation. But regarding this matter, I strongly feel that it is time. And the fact that you now have Cincinnati, the city, come out here and say on billboards, making it abundantly clear that we are upset with the decisions and the moves made by our head coach and GM, and even we've seen this in the expression of Joe Burrow, then I feel like Mike Brown and the Bengals, their backup are against the wall. And I feel like they have honestly, they have to look in the mirror, I believe, and understand we may have to make some sort of decision here. Last night I was scrolling through social media and I found, I didn't share it on my personal account, but I wish I did. It was a response that someone created on behalf of the front office, basically saying, well, if you don't want to support us now, then don't support us next year when we're good. Don't have faith in us now, have faith in us. But when we do have success, I don't want to see you. And it got under my skin because, I grew up in San Diego. I've grew up with poor teams. I grew up with unaccomplished teams. I grew up with teams that were determined and set to give us failure. The Padres never won a World Series. The Chargers never won a Super Bowl. Throughout my lifetime, I was not alive when the Chargers went to a Super Bowl. I was maybe 4 years old, 3 years old when the Padres got shut out by the Yankees in the World Series. The point I'm making is that I know what faithfulness is. I'm not saying that I'm sitting here. I'm not trying to sit here and bash, but it's hard when that's the only conversation you give me is nothing but disappointment from this organization, because obviously everyone else in Cincinnati can see where the mistakes are, but the front office. I know what it's like to be on the side where we have to support a losing team. I've done it in San Diego for 20 plus years, 25 plus years. So don't think that I'm not willing to be patient and work for this team. But if I can only be patient and supportive for the teams that want to get better, and they will make the proper moves and the right moves to get better. The Padres have made some pretty big, bold moves over the last 15, 20 years. Back in 2014, they unloaded their payroll to sign a lot of top-tier talent. We're talking about Craig Stammen, Matt Kemp. Who else was part of that team? I can't even believe, just to begin where to say this, there's just so much talent that the Padres tapped into in 14, and yet they still didn't win. It was an all or nothing. Then they were forced to rebuild from the bottom, and look where they're at now. They got Fernando Tatis, Manny Machado, Joe Musgrove, Michael King. And guess what? Now since they've been reestablished and they are spreading this out, they're able to maintain that level of talent by going out there and picking up the Michael King, that Korean baseball player in Song. They're just trying to add pieces that are going to win. Their payroll is not the Dodgers. They're just doing little things here and there that ends up becoming maybe a friendly option, a friendly contract to players, maybe a backing contract. And we'll go over that in a moment for the Bengals, because I saw this article that I want to share with you to end up our show. But my point that I'm trying to make is I've been through tough teams. I've been through tough droughts. I know the one thing that got us out of these droughts, that kept us going, was the fact that there was an effort being made to improve this team. And I'm talking about both the Bengals and the Reds here in this situation. Okay. I do not see the Bengals or the Reds making efforts into giving us a winning team. This entire season for the Bengals has demonstrated what they were not willing to do. Yes, Joe Burrow is still our number one quarterback, and he will start as long as he's able to play. Yes, we got Joe Flacco, but that was it when you knew we needed guys defensively and you knew we needed some help. No decisions have been made on coaching staff. No decisions have been made on our defensive line or defensive backs. We haven't improved at all, and this is what the result of it is. We're on desperation call, and there is a good chance that we could possibly lose this Sunday against the Miami Dolphins. I don't want to see that happen. And the fact that the Dolphins are starting their third-string quarterback, Quinn Ewers, instead of Tua Tagovailoa, should feel confident going into Miami winning. But I don't, okay? And if I said this yesterday on the podcast, that if the Bengals lose to the Dolphins with a third string quarterback, I mean, you got wolves at the gate. I don't know what to do for the rest of the season here. It's a good thing it's the holidays and I'm on short time next week and the week after because I have no clue with how I'm going to react if the Bengals lose to a third string quarterback when they're playing Joe Burrow. But the bottom line is it's not Joe Burrow. We have to take it back to ownership. Take it back to Mike Brown. They take it back to Duke Tobin. And the fact that the Cincinnati nation understands that and they've said something kind of puts the Bengals in this uncomfortable position that saying, hey, you need to take some sort of action or because we're not happy. On a side note, here's the disappointing part of this. The Bengals are just like the Reds. And if they're anything like the Reds, I wouldn't be surprised to see a response like the Castellinis a couple years ago when they got rid of Nick Castellanos and Jesse Winker and Eugenio Suarez and they unloaded. Castellanos' family said, look, we're going to do what we want to do. We're going to spend money or not spend the money how we want to spend it. And at the end of the day, we are a major league product and you are going to come out here and give us your money and you're going to support our team and there ain't nothing you're going to do about it. And that infuriated a lot of fans back then, just baseball players. Just imagine that happens to maybe Mike Brown says something on the similar line. I don't know, but that wouldn't be all that fun or fair. And I think we're going to be on this verge of a suppression with this organization. But the ball's in their court. They're going to have to make that decision on what they do next. All right. Well, Lance McAllister came out and put this little organization. I love the work that he does, man. You don't listen to his show, you got to listen to his show. I love the interactions on social media he does. But he broke down the Cincinnati Reds, off season. And I'm going to read you this, and I've just reposted on my Facebook. I'll repost it on the TNC Sports Talk Facebook page. But it says the Cincinnati Reds have committed, to around $15.8 million this winter. Emilio Pagan is worth $10 million. Philip Ferguson is $4.5 million. Keegan Thompson is $1.3 million if he makes the MLB roster. And Ben Rotvert is $1.2 million arbitration projection. That brings the 2026 projected payroll to approximately $105 million. Based on the expectations of the 2026 payroll will be similar to the 2025 roster, according to Nick Craw, which means that's about $115 million, which means the Reds will only have about $10 million left to spend. I'm just rounding down. The players already under contract this season, Key Brian Hayes under 7, Jose Trevino under 5.25, Hunter Green, under 8.3, and Sam Maul, 850,000 or 850,000. Players that we are still paying despite releases or buyouts is Jameer Candelario, $13 million, which let's make a note, that's next season, and that's the highest contract we're paying. Austin Hayes, Brent Sudo, and Scott Barlow all at $2.5 million in buyouts. Arbitrations looking at Brady Singer at $12 million, Tyler Stevenson at $6.5, Gavin Lux at $5, TJ Friedel at $5, Spencer Steer at $4.5, Nick Lodolo at 4.3, Matt McLean at 2.6, Tony Santillan at 2.5, 1.7, and Will Benson, Graham Ashcraft at 1.4, Brandon Williamson at 800,000. Rookie contract still MLB minimum at 750,000. Introduces guys like Andrew Abbott, Chase Burns, Rhett Lauder, Connor Phillips, Ellie De La Cruz, Noel V. Marte, and Sal Stewart. And he wraps up this article, says among the other options that that could be added to this outcome of the roster, which is minimum of 750,000. You have Christian Encarnacion, Blake Dunn, Tyler Callahan, Hector Rodriguez, Edwin Arroyo, Carson Spears, Zach Maxwell, Leon Richardson, Luis May, Chase Petty, Julian Aguiar, and the last two names I can't even pronounce. But I guess here's my point. The concept was having this team on a low budget, and that is where we're at. We made an effort earlier this offseason to attack Kyle Schwarber. That failed. We were willing to pay one player, a single player, $20 million, $25 million a year to play for the Reds. Now, put aside that it was his hometown, this and that. The fact is that we put down the idea that Kyle Schwarber is not playing. But it doesn't seem like the Reds are interested in spending money on anyone else. So other than, let's just say, other than Jameer Candelario, who is not on this team, who we let go, who is our highest paying player on the payroll right now, our second highest is Brady Singer, starting pitcher, which is getting paid more than Hunter Green, which is crazy. Then our second is our closer, Emilio Pagan. And so far in our bullpen alone, we've already added another $5 million into Caleb Ferguson. Keegan Thompson more than likely will make the roster at some point this year at 1.3. Tony Santillan is 2.5. So we're probably spending about, I'm going to say Graham Ashcraft at 1.4. We're probably spending, I'm going to say about $30-40 million alone in our relief pitching that is inconsistent. I understand there's about $10 million budget left, but are you telling me that we're not capable at least signing one player? It's very deceiving. I got to tell you, I am upset about that. Hate to hear this news, but in retrospect, we know that the Reds are a low market team. We know that the Reds are not willing to spend courageous money, which means they're not going to get top-tier talent. So we're looking now down at the bottom of the total pool. There's still that option with Ketel Marte or Brandon Lowe. I will still like to see something like that happen here, possibly before Christmas if we can. But the further we get away from that, for me, the harder it is to go back around and look on that. All right. Want to wrap things up with college football as bowl games began last week. As in week 16, we had Boise State losing to Washington in the LA Bowl hosted by Gronkowski. Washington beat Boise State 38-10. In week 17 bowl games, we had the Xbox Bowl yesterday as Arkansas State beat Missouri State 38-28. Old Dominion beat South Florida in the Cure Bowl 24-10. 68 Ventures Bowl, Louisiana lost to Delaware 20-13. In the Veterans Bowl, we have Jacksonville State beating Troy 17-13. Today, we have the Myrtle Beach Bowl in Kennesaw State taking on Western Michigan. And the Gasparilla Bowl, Memphis takes on NC State. Starting tonight is the college football playoffs first round, as on 8 p.m., the number 9 Alabama takes on number 8 Oakland. Tomorrow, we have a triple header as number 10 takes on Miami takes on number 7 Texas A&M. That kickoff is at noon. Number 20 Tulane takes on number 6 Ole Miss at 3:30. And then James Madison, number 24, takes on number 5 Oregon at 7:30. Monday, we'll have the Potato Bowl. Washington State takes on Utah State. That will wrap up week 17 in bowl games. So, round one in the college football playoffs, Alabama over Oakland. I think this is probably going to be the best game of all 4 of them this weekend. I have Oakland upsetting Alabama in a victory here. I see number 7 Texas A&M beating Miami, Florida. That will probably be my next biggest game that I see takeaway. I have Ole Miss taking on and beating Tulane, while I have Oregon walking in with an easy victory over James Madison. I want to hear what you guys have to think or say about these college football bowl games here in 2020 at the end of this 2025-2026 season, and who's going to head on to the final four games coming up at the beginning of the year. All right, real quick, we are just about done. I want to kind of reiterate our schedule heading into this weekend. We will resume our podcast back on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, 7 p.m. scheduled release time on all of our audio platforms and our social media accounts. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Have those notifications on so you don't miss a single episode. Also, we will be back on January 29th, 30th, and 31st. So Monday and Tuesday next week. The following week is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we will resume back to our normal 5 days a week starting January 5th. A lot of stuff is happening on. I can't wait to share with that stuff for you, but that is all the time I have for you guys today. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Like I said, enjoy your guys' weekend. If I don't get a chance to hear you, have a happy holidays, wherever you guys are celebrating. And I can't wait to get back here on Monday and see how sports unravels here after week 16 of football and after another college football playoffs round one takes place. So, well, that's all the time I have. Thank you guys. You guys have a wonderful day. And until next time, you guys have a great weekend. Take care. Bye.